Hello. I love Super Nintendo. I eat, sleep and live everything SNES. I love Super Nintendo. Pit Fighter on the Super Nintendo is a... Pit Fighter on the SNES, No, there's no easy way to explain this game to you. It's probably best if I just show you. Let's run the footage. See my point? If Pit Fighter on the Super Nintendo is a game, then it is best described as a beat-em-up game. At the beginning of Pit Fighter, you get to choose between 3 different characters to play at. There is Buzz, the stereotypical wrestler, Tai, the stereotypical kickboxer, and Kato, the stereotypical karate guy. As with many other beat-em-up games, the idea is to face off against a series of different opponents and knock 2 bells of hell out of them before proceeding. Hi, let me now demonstrate the one thing that rocks about this game. Ah, that's better. If you haven't already guessed, this game is disgusting. Just look at it. Do you need any more convincing? If you do, then let's do this right, I guess. First of all, the graphics. Let's remember that the SNES is the same system that gave us Donkey Kong Country, Super Street Fighter and Super Mario World. All 3 of those games looked very different from one another, and yet they all looked superb. Pit Fighter, well, it definitely looks different from those 3 as well. Pit Fighter was one of the first games to use digitised live action in its game. The game developers filmed actors pulling off each of the moves and then used the power of video game magic to reproduce these moves into the game. However, Pit Fighter is such a good example of just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. The live action doesn't work. It just looks like a load of still images pieced together. It's more like playing a slideshow than a fluent working video game. Another thing I don't get is why does the beaten character become grayscale? It's been a while since I was a challenger in an underground pit fight, but I'm pretty sure that certainly didn't happen. And look at the background. God, I hate this game. So next, onto the gameplay. As far as I can tell, you have a punch move, a kick move, a block move, and the 4th button makes you jump. Now, apparently, there are ways to do special signature moves, but I haven't found it yet. The D-pad moves your character around. However, the controls are so cumbersome. The first time I played this game, all joking aside, I thought my controller was broken. The reactions of the characters in the game are so slow that you always get beaten to the first punch by your opponent. There's no way to avoid it. Another problem is the life you start with. Rather than using a conventional life bar, Pit Fighter gives you a starting number of 160. Taking damage from your opponent depletes this number, and when it gets to 0, you die. No continues, second goes, or anything. You die once and you start back from the start. And what's worse is that this life doesn't automatically refill after each match. Win the first match with 6 life left, and you start the next match with 6 life. I can't think of another beat 'em up game where this was the case. And there's a really good reason for that. Final note about your life is that your opponent starts with more than you do. How is that fair? So, you have a computer with lightning quick reflexes against my broken controller who starts with more life than I do. I really hate this game. The sound? Well, take a listen. Exactly. Although I've never got there, there has to be an end to this game, and I have a small strategy that might just help you get there if you're that determined. As soon as the match starts, tap B and A alternatively, quite slowly. It's not infallible, but it does allow you to land a lot of hits on your opponent, who blindly keeps walking towards you. Like I said, it's not unbeatable, and it has still only allowed me to get to level 10, which wasn't the end of the game. However, it might just give you a slight advantage against such an unfair game. When you get further into the game, you find yourself in grudge matches. These are like bonus rounds where the first person to drop their opponent 3 times wins. You also meet this cheerful looking fella, but I have no idea who he is or when you face him, as I haven't got that far yet. On a final note, that strategy makes the game dull. However, the game is already dull, so you're actually not losing anything, are you? Final score-wise, it's tough, because I already have a least favourite game, and I can't exactly give this game less than that, because otherwise this game is now my least favourite game, and it can't be any worse than toys, so I've got to find something redeemable about it. Wow! Awesome! I've got it! The one redeeming thing about this game. The demo is fun to watch. Awesome! Well, that's another awful Super Nintendo game out the way. And coming up next is the super secret Super Nintendo Fanboy review medley. Now, some of you may have guessed what the trilogy I'm going to be reviewing is. However, for those of you who haven't, I don't want to tell you and ruin it. Let's just say I'll see you there, in a galaxy far, far away.